Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the History of Rock podcast. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the rock star. Class is in session, and we're hopping right back into Ozzfest 99 because that's when they had that documentary that was never released. We sold our souls to rock and roll, and when you can find it on YouTube, and when you watch it, you can be like, oh, this is why it wasn't released. Because, I mean, it's good, but it's not great.
Not good.
By any stretch of the imagination.
All right, well, let's dive straight back in. And we'll move, me starting in the red, correct?
Yeah, so we had just wrapped up.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The last episode. We had just wrapped it up with kind of the bus issues that they had. Static X ended up getting kicked out of their bus because whoever owned it forgot to pay the bank. So it got repoed. And then you also had the drum tech for Static X scalping his passes, which then meant they had to give him the boot. And then we also talked a little bit about sort of the protests that would go on outside of Ozzfest. And there was one main preacher that was kind of this guy that was kind of the head protester, I guess. Yeah. And so during the documentary, there's kind of a little debate between him and Sharon Osbourne. And it's... I have a feeling it was just done for radio, but I'm not 100% sure, and they don't really get into that. But we're going to talk,
if you think about
it,
Sharon's the kind of person who would stage something like that to get tickets sold. Like, she's
number
one. If you were ever going to be like, hey, did you ever hear about how they brought a whole evangelical mass to the station and picketed? Yeah, like Sharon made a phone call.
Yeah.
So moving on to that debate with the preacher and Sharon Osbourne, he talks about how young people are not only tattooing themselves and putting things in their nose and ears and navel and everywhere else, but they are having these vampire parties where they cut their bodies and lick and suck the blood out of one another. Well, at least they're not pinching themselves to check the garage door 3 blocks down the street. Go ahead, Brandon.
If you're not sure what Shim's talking about, go listen to last week's remix episode. When I was talking about how bad it gets when I forget to do something, or I think I'm going to forget to do something. So, but again, this dude is serious when he says these things. This guy is legitimately like, they have these vampire parties where they lick blood and do this weird shit. And it's like, wow, like they're completely off the wall here. So Sharon ends up confronting him about his hate of gay people. He says he's not against gay people. He loves gay people. And have helped them through the love of Christ so that they don't do those homosexual things anymore. Because if nothing says love,
these guys?
Nothing says love like telling somebody to be somebody they're not. Yeah. That's love.
Have you ever met one of these guys personally? Met a guy that's like I've met one who was an evangelical preacher. And he was a nice guy, had lots of great things to say. And then when the gay conversation came up, he was like, I have saved several people from homosexuality. Like, he was proud of it. And I was like, I can't talk to you anymore. That's a real shame, because that's a dividing thing for me. I got stuff on that. I can't talk to someone like that. It's just a thing.
Well, so would you completely shut somebody out then? Ooh, hold on. Hold on. You ready?
Okay, here we go.
60-second timer. Shim. Would you completely shut somebody out who does not see something that way with you when in regards to lifestyle?
It's only the gay thing, and it's only the thing where people who are religious say it's a sin and there is no two ways about it and they have to change. And then on top of it, a preacher that actually says my job is to convert people and make them and change them. And they have a deep-seated belief that it's like some sort of genetic defect that you can take a pill and you can fix yourself. And then, so usually what I do is I ask a few questions and I say, is there any other way to think about this? And they say, no, let me tell you, this is how it is. And at that point, I'm like, cool, well, if I can't change your mind, you ain't fucking changing mine. And this is a sensitive issue for me because my godfather was gay and he helped raise me. So we're done talking.
So you don't think they can pray the gay away is what you're saying?
No, I'm not. I don't think that's a possibility. I don't think you can pray the gay away just like you can't cure stupid. Good timing. Nailed it. All right, moving on.
I'm so glad I did that today. Okay, yeah, so you're up next here.
So Sharon asks him, why is it dirty? And he responds, filthy. dirty.
And it's just like that. Hold on. And it's just like that. Shim, by the way,
he says it.
Shim hasn't read these notes. One of the reasons I don't have him read the show notes beforehand is because I like to get his surprise on some of this stuff. That's like how the guy responds. Is it's not just like kind of like a throwaway. He's legitimately saying filthy, dirty,
truly disgusted. Do you? Hold on, I'm sorry.
Again,
I'm going to do this with a straight face.
This is why I love that he doesn't read these ahead of time.
So Sharon asks him, why is it dirty? He responds, filthy, dirty. Do you know about rimming? Do you know about golden rain? Do you know about running gerbils up a tube into your rear end and all that stuff? And it turns out he actually pronounces gerbils with a hard G.
Yeah.
Gerbils.
Gerbil. No, he says gerbils.
Gerbils. Gerbils. Do you know about running gerbils up a tube? Well, clearly he doesn't know anything about it because he can't even pronounce the motherfucker.
I could not stop laughing at this moment because this dude was so serious. And he starts with rimming. And then he ends up with gerbils. Like, oh. I'm telling you, if you guys, like, I'll have to find the link of and share it with everybody here, like especially on YouTube down below, so you guys can watch the whole thing because it's just too damn funny. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes of what happens during that debate. And then it gets to the point in the documentary where they're talking about the backstage passes. And here's where we need information from Shim. Have you ever heard of and I'm apologizing for the language, Mom, a pussy pass?
I've heard of them.
You've never actually been on tour where people have had them?
Nah. No, well, I mean, I've played a few shows with Motley Crue. They were past the pussy pass stage by that point. But no, I've heard of it. And let me think. What was the name of the band? Hinder. Yeah, Hinder were all about that sort of activity at the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they did it. I'm not saying they had pussy passes. I'm saying the band that I toured with that I would most likely attribute that type of stuff to would be Hinder because they were down, man. They like to party.
They were not hindered at all.
No, they weren't hindered at all.
So obviously they were used for the bands and the crew. If things got hectic backstage and they needed to start kicking people out. If somebody had that double P badge, they knew she gets to stay. Essentially, is what it is. Like that. Like no matter what's going on, this person's been selected by somebody back here. They get to stay.
Yeah, and it's literally like the hotel room key at a singles bar or something.
Hinder. You're like all bands. Hinder.
Dude. Oh, come on, man. He was running around like oh my God, Steven Tyler. You know, like Aerosmith. They had an Aerosmith sort of vibe and sound a little bit and
Lips of an Angel. I just looked it up. I was trying to remember what their big hit song was because they were huge.
Yeah.
When I first moved down to South Florida, like that was.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you. This is a true story. I'll give you. You want 60 seconds? I'll give you a true story.
It depends on how good the story is. I might give you an hour.
No. It's really simple. The reason that I mentioned Hinder is because I was backstage talking to the bass player of Hinder, whose name I forget, and then the singer, whose name I also. Can you look up the singer's name? Because I really do need to get that motherfucker's name right because he was the one that said it.
The lead singer of Hinder was Austin Winkler.
Yeah. There it is, Austin.
He's not the lead singer anymore. Dude, he left in 2014.
Yeah, he's a solo artist. I don't know why. We timed that out pretty well. So, no, we're backstage. I'm talking to the bass player. We're just talking about music. And Austin comes up and he's looking around and he just interrupts the conversation and says to the bass player of his own band. And he's like, hey, man, where's your blowjob? And I'm like, what? And he's like, the bass player was a little bit embarrassed when he was talking to me to be like put on the spot. And he was like, I don't know. He said, no, seriously. I saw her like 5 minutes ago. Where's your blowjob? Where'd she go? And I'm like, that's how they'd refer to him. And I was like, oh, this is a different type of camp to what I'm used to. so that's what leads me to think. Going back to Ozzfest, the roadie job description: if it's wet, you drink it. If it's green, you smoke it. If it moves, you fuck it. If it doesn't, you throw it on the truck.
Had you ever heard that before?
I've never heard that before, but we didn't have that type of crew, man.
Because that's something they specifically said in the documentary is as they're going through, with the roadies and stuff.
Yeah.
So
never had that stuff.
Then they get to talking to Sharon Osbourne. about the groupies. And she says that she doesn't mind it. She actually thinks they're kind of a necessity. And Ozzy says, and this is one of the greatest lines of the whole documentary, where he says he no longer needs the groupies. He goes, what does a 52-year-old guy talk to a 21-year-old girl about? The fucking stock market? And of course, you got to kind of put the Ozzy accent on there on that one. It's just the comedic timing was.
No, you got to go really slow. And Ozzy says, "What does a 52-year-old guy talk to about a 21-year-old girl about fucking stock market?" Yeah, pretty much. It's about as close as I can get, guys. Sorry. So anyway, they talked about how Ozzy has quit drinking and how good he feels. It shows a shot of him jumping rope, and it's more uncoordinated.
Oh wait, this was kind of. Hold on, this was actually. I forgot to rewrite this one because the line it's he was more uncoordinated than when my 6-year-old my kid was 6, jumping rope. Like you ever seen a 6-year-old jump rope?
Yeah, it's embarrassment.
It's like they're trying to stomp through the ground. Like they can't just bounce lightly. It's like a fucking stomp every time.
Yeah,
and. And now, of course, if you've ever seen Ozzy on stage, you kind of know what we're talking about. He's not
he does.
He's a phenomenal lead singer, but he's not the most
coordinated
of fellas.
Yeah. I have always found that really funny, that Ozzy, he does look like a corpse that got brought back to life and just can sing like a fucking demon, but he walks around like a zombie, and it adds to the whole vibe of it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. So, when they did the Osbournes TV show, I think he came out and admitted, he's like, there wasn't a time I was not high. Like, he was high all the fucking time during that show.
Yeah. Doing the Osbournes. Really? He was high the whole fucking time?
I mean, he might be exaggerating, but I believe I heard him say that, yeah, he was pretty much stoned the whole fucking time. I always remember this one scene where he's trying to find a garbage bag to put in the bin, and he spends like 10 minutes, and he's super patient about it. I'm like, I would have been throwing shit at this point. Like, where's the fucking garbage bags? And he's like, just moving so slow. Yeah. Oh my god!
And they turned it into #1 rating television.
They did.
They really did.
So this next point here, it kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm also trying to think of where 19-year-old Brandon's mindset would have been, because this is Ozzfest 99 that we're talking about. So outside the venue, there was a raffle. Or it might not have even been outside the venue. It might have been inside the venue. But there's a guy collecting money. He's got a big old bucket. And he's, for the highest bidder, there's a girl who's standing up kind of on this lifted, not a full stage, but she's above everybody. And she's got like a wife beater on. And the guy's basically yelling to the highest bidder for everyone, whoever has the highest bid, you get to pull this 19-year-old girl's top off. Like, you just get to fucking rip it off her body. And everyone is there, they're yelling, going, tits, tits, tits.
Oh, Jesus.
And
she's fully consensual.
She was totally fine with it. She's just happy. Like you could tell that she had no problems with the attention whatsoever. And I was trying to think of, I'm trying to think of what 19-year-old Brandon would have thought at that time. I think it would have had a lot to do with how inebriated I was.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where you got herd mentality, you got fuck tons of drugs and alcohol, and you've got a girl who's on a pedestal saying, "Yeah, yell at me, I want this attention," and you're like, okay. For me, I remember seeing certain things like that when I was on tour, and I would have little out-of-body experiences. I was not going to be the guy that would go up and raise my hands and go, "This is wrong. This should not," because you'd look at everyone and go, "Well, everyone's consensual."
You totally fucking should have.
Yeah.
Jim shows up and he's like, excuse me. Stop. He's like running up with a blanket to cover the girl up.
Yeah. Because you can imagine, and this is the thing that really fucked me up about certain things. You would go up and you would say, "This is inappropriate. We need to stop this." And the girl would be the first to say, "No, it's fine. It's fine. Like, I'm 19 and I'm like, I don't give a shit." And so at that point, you turn around and you go, "Well, I didn't fuck up 19 years of parenting to get you into that head. It's not my fault. So fuck it." So as long as no one's committing a crime, but that's the weird thing that happens sometimes on these tours. You go, well, people are down to do shit that you don't approve of or agree with or wouldn't necessarily do. So you kind of get out of the way as long as no one's hurting each other.
Yeah. See, I don't
weird.
think I was ever around anything like that at a concert. Although I do remember Howard from Kill Switch Engage yelling for the women to show their, again, I'm apologizing for the language, Mom, their pussies in the air. Like he's
How
like,
do you even do that?
I don't know. It was the side stage of Ozzfest, Kill Switch Engage, and he's doing this whole thing about he doesn't want to see tits. He wants to see pussies. Like,
so he's trying to turn the whole crowd into a yoga studio.
I don't know, man, but it was fucking weird.
How do you get them up there?
And then I think it was the same Ozzfest. I was hanging out backstage.
Did anyone do it? I'm sorry, we just totally went over. Did anyone do it?
I don't think so. I mean,
did anyone like hang upside down off their dude?
No,
because
I don't think it's physically possible unless you're superhuman. So I think it was that same Ozzfest, which we're actually going to get to even in this next one right here. But I met a guy backstage, and he mentioned he was filming something. It wasn't Girls Gone Wild, but it was this knockoff that he was trying to do called like Real Wild Girls or something like that. Right. And I remember they had a really close connection with the band Soil. You know, they had the big hit Halo back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember he gave me a DVD. He's like, oh, this is what we do. And it's essentially all that stuff where it's just girls at concerts, flashing boobs and all kind of, stuff like that. And, of course, embedded into all that stuff was Soil's music videos.
That's great. Good.
It's marketing, baby. It's marketing.
Going back to Ozzfest, Ozzy talks about how when he's on stage, he really wants to give the crowd his heart and soul. Sometimes he can, and sometimes he cannot. When he can't, he's pissed. He's a pissed off son of a bitch. When he can, he's the happiest guy in the world. Yeah, I can relate to that.
And this reminds me, is that Ozzfest that I was at, which would have been 2005, and it was not a good night for him. And I feel bad too because this is the only time I've ever seen Ozzy perform live, and it was bad, like bad. I want to say the third song was War Pigs. His voice kept cracking on the mic, and it would hit a pitch that was so high that it made my ears physically hurt. Yeah. So I left after War Pigs. I think it was in the middle of War Pigs. And now, obviously, seeing this and learning more about him and knowing that he's one of, you'll run into so many different rock stars who will basically say, I'm not feeling it tonight. I'm not going to perform. Like, there's always the infamous story about Axl Rose when James Hetfield got lit up over in Europe. Remember when he had all the the pyros fucking took him out, so Metallica had to leave. They tried to get Axl to go back out on stage, and he was like, nah. And he's like smoking a fucking cigarette and drinking some whiskey, and it was like, he's like, my throat hurts.
Yeah.
And it's all right. So, but then knowing that Ozzy goes and he just pours his fucking heart and soul out there no matter what, I wish I could stay. I would have stuck around, but there's no way I could have because, it physically hurt my ears.
Yeah, it's really disappointing sometimes when you see bands, and this is something I was always very proud of the fact that I would do the best show that I could no matter what the circumstances, at least the best show that I could. And we had things where we had 3 different versions of the set. One was proper set, the other one was not feeling the best, can't hit certain notes, and the other one was you've got the flu and you just threw up before you went on stage, which is like you cannot sing. So we would cut certain songs that I couldn't sing and replace them with more riff-heavy instrumental stuff. So the crowd would go, well, at least it's a big rock show. And then they at least wouldn't get let down. They'd feel like they got a good show. And other ones where I'd go to Emma and I'd be like, yo, I need you to sing the high octave, even though you're not really comfortable with it and it's not really we haven't rehearsed it as much. I'm going to sing the low octave tonight because I can't get there. I've got the flu. And so we had different versions of things rather than just saying show canceled or I'll just scream through it and sound like shit. So we would really take it very seriously to try to do the best show possible. Never really understood why artists would go to that length to be like, yeah, I know there's 20,000 people out there. I'm tired.
Like it would have to be a lot. Because some people are fucking lazy. I do remember at that show, too, I was down in the pit and I was close enough. That's when I got to see Tony Iommi's fingers. I was close enough to see the fake tips on his fingers, man. It was so freaking cool. So speaking of kind of not feeling too well and having some issues up on stage, so there's buckets that they would have on the side of the stage at Ozzfest for Ozzy. There's one bucket that was filled with sponges to cool him down. The other bucket was in case he had to use the restroom and he needed to go take care of it rather quickly. Of course, you'd really hope they don't mix up those buckets if he's double dipping in one night. And the guy who's back there, he's kind of like the main guy. He mentions Usually it's just number one. He goes, but we have had other instances where,
he just shits in a bucket next to the stage.
They don't outright
set
say
up a porta potty. Set up a fucking porta potty. You're Ozzy. Set up a porta potty on the side of the stage and just go and go. You know what I mean? Come on, a bucket. I mean, you're Ozzy. Although you're Ozzy, that does make a bit of sense.
That's pretty fucking rock star, man. You go shit
pretty
in a bucket.
Ozzy. The question is, can they see him from the side of stage just sitting on a bucket letting it rip?
It's like fucking Larry Izzo. Oh my God. Oh, I got to use this. All right, hold on here. So I know you're not a sports guy, but I need to set the 60-second timer. It's tangent time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about Larry Izzo, former Miami Dolphin, New England Patriot. He was, I believe, if I'm getting his name, if it's Larry Izzo correctly, he was infamous for taking a shit in a bucket on the sideline of a football game. And what they ended up kind of having to do is he just went over to the bucket because he had to go and he didn't have time to make it to the locker room. So some of the guys kind of stand around him with the towels and they try to make it look like it's nothing. But this was one of those. This is one of those stories that kind of built momentum, and then finally he was asked by, I think it might have been Dan Le Batard out of Miami, and he was like, "Hey, is this story true?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's totally true. Like I did that."
He just shits on the field, and the guys stand around and to block your view.
Pretty much. That's exactly how it went down. But hey, it worked. Nobody was the wiser, I guess. And it finally was outed over on the Dan Le Batard show, coming to you from South Florida. Wait for it. There it is.
There you go. Perfect time. Perfect time. Good work, man. All right, coming back to it. Let me see. There are clips of crowd members talking about how Ozzy could be Jesus or even God. One guy says that Ozzy is like Jesus because he sacrifices for his fans. Yeah, man, he's like Jesus.
And they're all serious. It's not some sort of he's totally like God, or he's kind of like Jesus, and there's an ounce of sarcasm. No,
right? No, they're real.
It's 100% belief that he is like Jesus because he sacrifices for us.
Had these people had a chance to watch the show where he's spending 10 minutes looking for a trash bag?
Well, that would have been after that. Because remember, I believe Osbourne's came out in, I think it was 2000 or 2001.
Could you imagine Jesus in the shed next to Mother Mary, and he's just fucking pacing, and she's like, Jesus, what is it? He's like, I can't find the fucking holy water. Fucking, where did I fucking put it?
No, but remember, there's no frustration there. Because when Ozzy was doing it, he just, it's not in there. And then he just kind of walks.
Imagine if all the disciples are outside the fucking tent. They're like thousands of these motherfuckers. And Mother Mary's there like, he just needs a second. And then you go in and he's just there like, no, it's not. I thought it was over there. No, wait. Oh, I got the shit. Get the bucket, Mum. Get the bucket. Oh, fuck.
Oh, no, that was the sponge bucket.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, when I saw that in the documentary, the first thing that popped into my head was, God, what if they swapped those buckets? Or what if they mixed them up? Because they didn't really get into the fact that there's different colors of buckets. Like the one for the sponges is yellow, and the ones for, or actually, do you think it would be the ones for the pee would be yellow, and then the sponges would be blue? I was going to say,
yeah, clean and not clean. Or clear. Clear is what you should use. Clear and labeled, and then the sponge bucket is
big fucking letters.
I'm telling you, if it was me, I'd be like, yo, for the piss bucket, it's clear and it's got a big piece of tape on it. For the one that's the clean water, make it rainbow. So there's no fucking way you can make a mistake. Just rainbow color that fucking bucket. All right.
So the documentarian, they go straight from people basically saying how Ozzy is like God and or Jesus. And so the documentarian asks him, tells Ozzy that they think he's their God. Like they basically tell Ozzy that. And his response is, I've never read the fucking Bible. That was it. He's like, I've never fucking read it. How could I be God? He's like, I've never read the Bible. And he just, his answers are so fucking funny. Like the way that he just times them. And it's just, you can tell.
One thing about Ozzy, you got to give him, he's authentic. There's never a single moment where he cares about what anyone fucking thinks. He doesn't care. So something else you might not know about Ozzy, apparently he hates phones and vacuum cleaners. I'm surprised he could hear either of them. He said he hates talking on phones, and the sound of a vacuum cleaner makes him want to kill someone. I actually totally agree with the sound of a vacuum cleaner. Sounds of vacuum cleaners have recently started to drive me insane. I don't know what it is. It might just be that I'm like starting to lose it. But when the vacuum cleaner's running, I block my ears and leave the room. I'm like, that consistent noise, I'm out. I hate it. It's me. Anyway,
really, I like it because it means the house is getting cleaned, especially when the little DJ Roomba that I have moving around the house.
I don't relate to anything you fucking say about house maintenance since the pinch incident. I can't relate to anything. Like, a vacuum cleaner, I'm out. I guarantee you and I don't see eye to eye on anything about keeping the house up to date.
Well, that's going to be a perfect stopping point for this episode of the History of Rock Ozzfest. Basically, this is just kind of inside Ozzfest 99 because we didn't really get past the documentary. But coming up, we're going to get to a bunch of different things, including the later years of Ozzfest. Because remember, it started out as just a weekend thing, and then it expanded into a tour, and then it eventually just kind of became a weekend thing, molding over with Knotfest for a couple of years as well. We're going to get to that in the next episode. And one of the things I think I forgot to put in these notes, I had it down originally, but there's a lot of footage with Kelly and Jack, who at that time nobody really knew of them. I mean, they knew that they had kids, but the show The Osbournes had not been out yet. And that shows them watching kind of the pyrotechnic test run of what's going on stage. So it's the whole Osbourne family there, and Ozzy's immediate response was, "Can you make it louder?" And it's already fucking loud, man. So we're going to get to all that.
He's definitely deaf. I mean, he's got to be fucking deaf.
What?
As a doorknob.
What?
Yep.
All right, well, that's all the stuff we're going to get up to in the next episode as we get more Ozzfest. We're going to wrap up, finish up the 99, and then go on through the entirety of its run. And stick around. We're going to get to an encore here in just a couple of minutes. But on that note, his name is Shim. He's the rock star.
His name is Brandon. He's the DJ. Click the like and subscribe button. Class dismissed.
Are you ready for it?
Okay, ready. I got to start like a second earlier so that I can compensate for the delay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! All right, so what I had down here. Oh, I got to. Hopefully, by the time this episode comes out, I would have put up the best guitar player poll.
I forgot to ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
I meant to ask this before. Underneath my little screen, which handle of mine do you have when you do the edit?
I do both. There's @Shim and @ShimMore, I think, or ShimOnMore. What do you want me to put?
I was gonna say I probably should put fuck. That's the problem. Is all three of them are different. Shim More for the TikTok, and then it's Shimon More for the
for YouTube, and then just Shim.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can fix. So whatever you guys are looking at over.
Oh, we're still going. Sorry, I forgot.
There now. Yeah, we're in the encore. So hopefully that looks nice down there.
Do we have those little images, the icons, and then the name, and then the icon, and then the name? Like
no, I just put the names.
We should probably put. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about. We should probably make in the overlay. You can get those little Instagram logo, YouTube logo, and all that sort of stuff next to ours, so that they know which. I know, but once it's done, it's done.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because with the way that things get edited, it's going to have to change frequently.
What are you talking about?
When
it's part of the overlay. I'm talking about part of the overlay.
Our names aren't part of the overlay. Like if you'll notice how we're recording right now, there's nothing there.
Right.
It's post-production.
That's why I keep forgetting to bring it up. Yeah. What?
I don't know. We'll get to that. So we're in the encore. Nobody wants to know how you don't know how to have one fucking handle for all of your social medias.
What were you going to talk about? You're not wrong, but I've set them up over such a long period of time that they weren't available.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's one of the reasons why my TikTok isn't at the real Brandalorian, is apparently there was already one out there. So I'm Goat the Brandalorian on TikTok. But
that's
one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Fucking hypocrite.
Honestly, so here's the funny thing on this, as we're talking about this, because TikTok was always just kind of there. I never really focused on it. I never really paid attention to it. Essentially, all I was doing is I was taking the same videos, the shorts that I'm producing for YouTube, and then resharing them on Instagram and resharing them on TikTok. TikTok has been easily one of the faster growing ones. I mean, I'd mentioned this. So Shim and I were recording this episode usually a week before it runs. So today is actually September 26th. And I had just put up a video about Jeffrey Dahmer last night. And it has 1.4 million views in less than 24 hours of being up. And I've also gained, oh shit, where am I at now? I've gained like almost 2,700 followers in less than 24 hours because of that one video on Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, that's because you're being smart, though. I remember when you told me I'm going to do one on Jeffrey Dahmer because it's going to be trending, and I'm like, that's really smart. I wouldn't have, because I'm not into that stuff. I wouldn't have thought of it. But you're right.
But yeah, TikTok was always just kind of there. But I think I might have to start paying attention to it.
Yeah, I know. I've got to start. I did a stream yesterday on Twitch, and I'm like, I think I'm going to need to start. The thing is, I found out one good idea for a hack, which is really simple and easy, which is I'm just going to start doing duet. Oh. No, not that, mate. No one cares about that shit for me. Maybe if I was like one of those models. Doing reaction videos to people that have used Sick Puppies songs, because there's mountains of that shit.
That would be fucking hilarious. Where you're like, really? Like, this fucker has how many views and he's just watching my video?
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, because I just typed in like Sick Puppies, and then all this shit came up of people that had used the song and different stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's heaps of stuff I can use.
That would be fucking super entertaining. But yeah, so one of the things that I'm pretty pleased with is I installed a whole bunch of new shit onto my PC this past weekend, and knock on wood, there was no issues. I was fully
that never happens.
I know. I had been delaying it. So I bought new RAM and I had bought a new hard drive, and I knew exactly what I needed to do for everything. And originally, I wasn't even going to pull the PC out because where the panel's at is right. Like, you can access everything. All you gotta do is pop that panel off. But trying to get in there because all the pieces are like that fucking big. Yeah. I eventually just unplugged everything and pulled it out. That's what she said. And it maybe took me 10 minutes. Maybe. Right. And then when I plugged it back in, when you do something like that and you're kind of like your breath is almost kind of like you're holding it like.
Yeah. It's like when you take. It's like when you know a massive headache's coming and you take Tylenol because you're like, I know it's coming. So you brace yourself for it. There's going to be 3 hours of troubleshooting. Just get in the game. And it just worked for you?
I essentially put in the RAM, I put in the hard drive, and then you have to essentially kind of activate the hard drive, and everything was done. And it was good to go, man. Lickety split. Fantastic. Kosher like a dill pickle, baby.
Lickety split.
Oh, and then also the other thing I wanted to talk about in the song car was the fact that we did watch that first episode of the Jeffrey Dahmer show.
Oh yeah,
and
terrifying.
Like, Evan Peters is arguably one of the most underrated actors of our time. That guy is brilliant in almost everything he's in. No, he's from American Horror Story.
Right.
He's been in a bunch of different things, but I first really remember him from American Horror Story. And so a lot of the Ryan Murphy things that get produced, Evan Peters is in.
Right.
Like, can you picture who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I checked it out for a second when you I saw you short. So yeah, I know the one you mean.
You and 1.4 million other people, baby.
Million other people, my man. That's right. So I had something I was going to bring up, but it was off topic. So there was one thing. Oh, that's right. People can. I started a 60-second rant. No, talking about how it was when Magneto, the guy that played Magneto, he turned down one job because he was like, "No, I've already got the scheduling conflict." So
so you're talking about the guy who voiced it. So not Ian McKellen, the guy who ended up being Magneto.
Yeah, the guy who voiced
David
Magneto,
Hemplin was his name.
And he was offered the role of Magneto. He turned it down because he had a scheduling conflict. And Russell Crowe, right? This is an infamous story that's not fully backed up. Okay, this is something that's more of a.
This is just making shit up.
No. It's a story that I know because I knew people who worked with him in theater back in the early '80s, mid '80s. And Russell Crowe started out as a musician, and he got into acting because he got a acting role and the reason that he started out as he wanted to be a rock star. So he had the rock star mentality. He didn't really give a shit about anything. He got cast as Eddie in the Rocky Horror Show, which is just one character that has one song and then he gets killed off. And he had the voice for it, so they gave him the job, which then turned into do another role and do another role. And now he's acting way more than he's doing music. Flash forward a few years, he's done a movie which got critical acclaim called Romper Stomper, right? Which was a really dark, dark movie about neo-Nazis.
Yeah, he plays like a skinhead.
And he's doing a play, it's just some play, and he's signed on for 8 weeks or whatever it is. And Sharon Stone calls and says, I've seen Romper Stomper. I'm making a Western. I want that guy to play the semi-lead next to me. I can tell he's going to be a star. I want to be the one that picks him up and brings him to Hollywood. So they call and they say, yeah, you got the role. You've got an offer from Hollywood. And he says, I've got a scheduling conflict. Give me a day. So he goes
I'll
to the
still
theater.
do it, but fuck you guys. You're going to wait for me.
Yeah, no, he doesn't make him wait at all. He just says, just give me a minute to make sure I can confirm that I'll be on the plane. And then he goes to the theater, drunk out of his mind, walks on stage for his first scene, doesn't say his lines, just punches the other actor in the face, knocks him over, and then walks off stage and sits in this and waits for his next scene and destroys the whole fucking play and gets fired.
Jesus.
And he gets himself fired. And then he goes and does the Sharon Stone movie. Because if he had quit...
That would have been the Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Quick and the Dead. If he had quit, then ironically, he's like, if you quit, you're on the hook. If you get fired, you're not. So like all of the insurance and all of the things of like, well, if you quit in the middle of it, you've got a clause in the contract or whatever that says you can't just quit, but we could fire you if you fuck up. So he just went and fucked up and then got fired the next day. And that's the rock star mentality. Rather than do your job properly, he was like, nah, I got a better offer. I'm not going to fuck this up. Let's just give me a day. I'll get myself fired. Off we go. And then the rest is history. He was in the Quick and the Dead, and then it was Hollywood movies.
Fucking A, mate. It's Russell Crowe.
That's how the Aussies do it. That's how the Aussies do it.
Fucking A, mate. All right, we're going to wrap up this encore. Just really quick reminders that we do have the remix episode coming up on Wednesday, and then we're going to get to part 2 of Ozzfest coming up next Monday. No remix episode, I think, for a couple of weeks, though, or at least 1 week, because something we'll talk about in the next encore is I'm going to be in Disneyland. So we're going to be
there'll be a lot of
having
fun
some fun in Disneyland. But we can say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.